The exchange of draft picks can be extremely risky. Just take last season as an example, as we as fans witnessed a massive blockbuster trade. As a two-time Norris Trophy winning defenseman in Carlson was traded to the San Jose Sharks, and in return, the Ottawa Senators received a bunch of assets, including top prospects, roster players, and a first-round pick. And at the time, this was seen as a massive win for the Sharks. They obtained one of the best defensemen of the past decade, and they didn't have to give up a single core piece on their team. Well, that is until this season. Shocking the entire hockey world, the San Jose Sharks have fallen off a cliff and are currently third last in the entire NHL. Just crazy. And what was seen as a great trade for the Sharks, a trade that might finally catapult them into winning their first Stanley Cup in franchise history, instead is seen as a massive win for the Ottawa Senators. Because they didn't have to pay Erik Carlson $11.5 million, and they now have 2 picks in the top 3 of the 2020 NHL Draft, which has a very stacked top 10. And this risk level can be applied to any scenario that involves the exchange of draft picks, and not just first round picks. Because even though a team may be receiving a guaranteed roster player, the what if of trading away a draft pick can haunt a general manager for years. And it can even alienate them from fans if the traded pick turns into an all-star. In today's video, we're going to go over 7 traded draft picks that turned into NHL stars. And comment down below if your team has ever traded away a draft pick that eventually turned into an NHL star, and press subscribe for some more awesome hockey content. And yes, I'm wearing a hat because I need a haircut and it is quarantine. We'll start with the absolutely insane Mark Stone saga. In the summer of 2009, the Ottawa Senators traded away Alex Auld for a 2010 6th-round pick. And during the 2010 NHL Draft, with this pick, the Ottawa Senators would of course select Mark Stone. And during this draft year, Mark Stone would get a pretty serious concussions alongside of other upper body injuries. And because of this, he'd lose a lot of momentum in his development on top of having pretty suspect skating. So even though Mark Stone had a great rookie season in the WHL and was a massive 6'4" two-way winger with some good offensive upside, he would have fallen all the way down to the 6th round, and the Ottawa Senators would of course hit the lotto. Because the next season, Mark Stone would explode in development, putting up 106 points, and after a couple seasons of bouncing back and forth from the NHL and the minors, finally in 2014, Mark Stone would step into the lineup and would become a top young star in the league with 64 points in his rookie season. And Mark Stone would become criminally underrated on the Senators, as he was a top defensive forward in the league, but wasn't really getting the recognition until his final years in Ottawa. And then finally, he would be traded last year to the Vegas Golden Knights for Erik Brannstrom. But the story doesn't stop there. Leading up into the Golden Knights expansion draft, Vegas would receive a 2017 first-round pick, a 2019 second, Jake Bischoff, and Mikhail Grabowski, who was a cap dump. And in return, during the expansion draft, the Vegas Golden Knights had to select a non-roster player in Jean-Francois Berube. And well, like I previously mentioned, during the 2017 NHL draft, the Vegas Golden Knights would select Erik Brannstrom, who was of course traded for Mark Stone. And to summarize, and I can't stress just how crazy this chain of events is, but the Vegas Golden Knights basically got Mark Stone, who's a top 10, if not top 5 winger in the entire NHL, for nothing. They didn't have to pay anything because they received a first-round pick in compensation for not selecting a player in the expansion draft. Absolutely insane. And looking back, it's honestly crazy how many draft picks the Golden Knights received during the expansion draft. Especially given what they're able to do, like acquiring Mark Stone, and I doubt this happens for Seattle. I just feel like teams will kind of cue in on this. Next, we have the 2014 NHL Draft. And this draft was of course headlined by Aaron Ekblad, Sam Reinhart, and Sam Bennett. And this draft saw many disappointments, as many top prospects in the top 10 did not necessarily live up to the hype. However, Tampa Bay in the 3rd round would zone in on a player which they had a lot of interest in, as Steve Yzerman traded pick number 80 and a 2015 7th round pick to move up one single spot. And past the 2nd round, this type of move up in a draft rarely happens, and Stevie Y would jump on an undersized Braden Point in the 3rd round. And today, Braden Point is hands down the biggest steal of this draft. And Point fell so far in this draft because, like I just mentioned, he was small. And on top of this, he played on a struggling Moose Jaw Warriors team, which also resulted in Braden Point being underscouted. Because in Point's draft year, he did put up a whopping 91 points. He was a leader for Canada at the U18s, and he was an elite skater. And Point fell all the way down to the 3rd round because he was 5'9", 160 pounds. And it is honestly just insane that Steve Yzerman would trade up one spot in the 3rd round to cue in on Brayden Point. Because Point today is a superstar, 92 points last season. He dealt with injuries this season, but he's still a star player who has a very underrated defensive game. And the 2 draft picks that Minnesota acquired for trading away the Brayden Point pick, they drafted 2 non-roster players, one of which is in the AHL and one of which is in the ECHL. So of course the Minnesota Wild probably don't draft Brayden Point, but the fact that Yzerman makes the decision to jump on Point with 1 draft pick is just incredible. Next, with the 2008 NHL draft. And during this draft, the Nashville Predators would be involved in a whirlwind of trades, as they're involved in exchanging 15 draft picks from both sides. And for starters, we will begin in the 1st round, as the Nashville Predators traded away the 15th overall pick in the 2008 NHL draft for the 18th overall pick and a 2009 3rd round pick. And with the Predators' 15th overall pick, the Ottawa Senators would then go to draft Erik Carlson. And Carlson at the time of this draft was a potential high-end offensive defenseman. He needed some maturing, but he was a very high-risk, high-reward player. And of course, Carlson would absolutely explode in development, as Carlson has been a top defender in the NHL for the past decade. And the Nashville Predators would go on to draft top goalie prospect in Chet Picard, who never actually played a single game in the NHL, and Taylor Beck, who could never crack the lineup and ended up leaving to the KHL. And even though in hindsight this trade is absolutely atrocious, believe it or not, the Predators in this draft would actually redeem themselves. Because in the 2nd round, the Predators would trade pick number 46 and 76 for pick number 38, which they used to draft Roman Josi, who of course today is a Norris caliber defenseman and the captain of the Nashville Predators. And the 2 picks they sent to Arizona turned into 2 non-NHL players, and Roback and Brodeur. And this exchange of picks is honestly insane. And the fact that the Predators could have had Roman Josi, Erik Carlson, on a Predators blue line that was already one of the best in the league is just crazy. And could you imagine? They could have had Shea Weber, Ryan Suter, Ryan Ellis, Mattias Ekholm, Erik Carlson, and Roman Josi. This would hands down be one of the best blue lines in NHL history. I mean, they probably couldn't afford them, but theoretically it would be. Next, we have the 2009 NHL draft. And with the 17th overall pick, the St. Louis Blues would draft David Rundblad, a highly gifted puck-moving defenseman from Sweden. However, in a very surprising fashion, only 1 year later, the St. Louis Blues would trade Rundblad to the Ottawa Senators for the 16th overall pick in the 2010 NHL draft. And with this pick, the Blues would jump on one of the best snipers in the draft, which was Vladimir Tarasenko. And weirdly enough, David Rundblad, after he was traded, would absolutely explode in the SHL, as Rundblad put up 50 points in 55 games. Truly astounding numbers from a defenseman, let alone a 20-year-old phenom playing in the SHL, which is considered a very low-scoring league. So at this point, Rundblad was actually a top prospect in the entire NHL and was seen as a potential cornerstone defenseman, which actually made the St. Louis Blues look foolish to some degree. However, the outcome was the complete opposite, as Rundblad was never able to translate his game into the NHL. He played 113 games and bounced back and forth from the minors for 5 years until he left to Europe. And currently, Rundblad is playing in the KHL. And as for Tarasenko, he of course has been a top sniper in the NHL for the past 7 years. And before getting injured this season, he was on the verge of 6 straight 30-goal seasons. And of course, Tarasenko was a major piece in the Blues' 2019 Stanley Cup win. And it makes me wonder, did they see something in Tarasenko that others didn't? Or perhaps they didn't like something about David Rundblad's development and just got extremely lucky. Anyways guys, has your team ever traded away a draft pick that turned into a star? Comment down below. And honestly, what did you guys think about these cases? Because I personally love these, these chain of event stories. Because some of them are just crazy. Like the Mark Stone chain of events is just insane. And the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights received Mark Stone for nothing is just even more crazy. But anyways guys, before we end this video, I just wanted to thank everyone for the awesome, amazing support the channel has been getting. Because the RTH channel in the past couple weeks has been hitting all-time highs. Just crazy. And I appreciate all the comments, I read them all, and I take them all to heart. So when I say thanks for the support, I truly mean it. Anyways, I hope everyone is doing well during these tough times. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.